All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Headlines, where me and my co-host Steve here take a look beyond the headlines to see what's happening in the underlying market. I usually make the joke that I bring up uranium to see what mood Steve's in, but
Ah,
not uranium this time. And we were talking about another chart that's got
mm,
Steve in a real good mood. So do you just want to lead off with that? Talk about Ripple
let's do
and
it.
what's going on there?
Yeah. Well, the big news is it's been waiting for a long time. The SEC has held Ripple under a kind of a lid with a lawsuit, and that lawsuit went to appeals and the appeals, and it was just really nearing the dead end. And everybody kind of could see Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman, who's not a very popular person for many different reasons. He resigned officially, and so January 20th is his last day. But the chart shows the smelling. Well, it started off with the election. The
Yeah.
Trump administration going to be friendly to crypto, and then the second goose was really Gary Gensler officially notifying everybody that he's out. And the lid has been taken off of XRP, and I'm. This is not a try. I was just showing Brian Shannon. He's going to kill me, but he's like, "Yeah, great. I'm just in it to make money. I don't really care about the story." I'm like, well, I care about the story, Brian. So I'm going to talk about the story. Show that website. The thing with XRP is the speed of transactions. All right, they've got this broken down into stable coins, fiat coins, and then the ledger over there on the right hand side. Things that are being done in the ledger. Think of like tokenized assets being ledger to ledger. So they've
Yep.
broken that down. And I was reminding Michael there was a cringe moment where Trump was trying to buy a milkshake or something with
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and they had to edit it down because it took about 4 to 5 minutes for the transaction to complete. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. It's wonderful, but it's not speed. It's not fast. It's not efficient. So as the world tokenizes and digitizes, XRP is starting to become the darling child of digital transactions, what have you, in many different types, as you can see. So this is a really cool visualization of real time transactions, people buying it on exchanges, people exchanging with each other, people putting it on ledgers, digitizing things. There's a lot of things happening here. And the daily chart obviously shows. Now,
Hmm.
we'll go back to the chart. I don't expect this thing to hold. That's a wonderful base camp that was built there around, I think it was like we got 110, 115 ish,
Yeah.
and then we've shot higher. So, I mean, price action is price action, no matter what you're trading. Things can get over their skis and get ahead of themselves really quickly. I'm not sitting here cheering, let's get to $2 today. That's ridiculous. But this is a wonderful example of patience. I've been extremely patient. We're talking 3 years. I've been stacking this thing at 50 cents. And I've been buying into the story, which is unusual because, as you guys know, I'm not a fundamental guy. I'm a chart guy like Michael, but and Brian was shaming me, but this is my one fundamental play. Know
Yep.
what you hold, and I have no intention of selling this. This is going, ideally, going forward, if it becomes what I think it's going to become, you're just going to take your coins and your tokens and you're going to stake them with big institutions and let them use them for liquidity, and you're going to get passive income on those coins. So that's my dream.
Yeah, and it looks like it's carrying out, the people who I've always shook my head at the people who thought Bitcoin as a currency because I've been around since 2018. I remember making Bitcoin transactions there and it taking hours. And I'm like, no one can ever buy anything or sell anything with this. But um, I don't think most people that's not the point, right? The whole digital gold thing for Bitcoin makes the most sense, right? There's a limited supply, it's a store of value, all of that. And then yeah, people are going to other currencies like this for speed of transaction. So that seems to be working. While we're talking about Bitcoin, I think we have to talk about quite close to 100,000. It seems to
So
be a
close.
wall here. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, again,
hundred
I,
dollar rolls. I mean, they work for stocks. The 100K roll might as well work for Bitcoin. It's just a matter of time.
yeah, gun to my head, if I have to make a prediction, we're gonna get some sort of blow off top through 100,000, and then that's gonna be the top for a while. Just guessing, and it's just one of those that
Like, mm,
I've just heard so many people say I'm going to sell at 100,000. That so many of them. I took a large chunk. I bought a bunch at 75 as we were breaking out, and I took it off here just because that's what I think is going to happen. Could be dead wrong. Could blow right through and go to 200. Knowing Bitcoin.
I think you're right. It's a psychological number, and I think it'll spike through, and then it'll be a sell the event kind of a deal.
Yeah. And the only thing that I'm watching from the crypto space, I'll tell the people is so I think we talked about this in the last episode. What I'm doing a lot of, where is the view app? What I'm doing a lot of is just basically marking these highs with anchored VWAPs. And, it happened with Doge, it happened with Solana, with Bitcoin, with Ethereum. When these all-time high anchored VWAPs go, you seem to get these pops. And it happened with Ripple as well. So I'm watching this one. It's Decentraland. Again, it's digital real estate. It's a video game, I think, as far as I can tell. It's weird, but nice rounded bottom here. Obviously, it's respecting this anchored VWAP for a long period of time. So I'm just looking to see if this thing ends up blowing through. If it does, maybe we get a move like we get kind of in Ripple. So again, could happen. But yeah, crypto space is going nuts. It's a make hay while the sun shines, like Steve was talking about. At some point, these things are going to chill back out again. Crypto has a very detailed pass of incredible moves and then months or years of nothing, and then incredible moves. So if you're not there for the incredible moves, most people, as they start to get involved, starts to be the start of the month and year of nothing. So I'm trying to kind of make hay while the sun shine, and then I'll go back to something else. So
My sleep patterns have been just way off the last few weeks, between some of these crypto plays and overnight gaps and
yeah,
DJT and SMRs, and it's been fun.
it's been fun. It's all going to calm down eventually, right? So you got to have fun while you can. Another story which is interesting to me is the yen carry trade. So for those who don't know, you should, because it wasn't that long ago. This massive gap down we had in the market right here. Market was close to lock limit down. I think the Nikkei was lock limit down. The idea there was simply that Japanese yen was charging nothing for its interest rates. America had higher interest rates. It still does. And what people were doing is they were borrowing Japanese yen and they were using that to invest in US dollars and they were making that spread. Uh, that caused the yen to absolutely get just decimated just for a long period of time. If we just go, let's just do the yen futures, probably the easiest way to look at it. Right. So you can see this massive just decline in the yen as people were doing this. They were selling yen, they were buying dollars, or vice versa, selling yen, buying dollars. And it was just causing this collapse. And the Japanese government said, enough's enough. We're going to start buying back our currency. We're going to raise weights. We're going to do things to disincentivize this carry trade because it's not doing anything to help us. And that's what caused this collapse. And you can see a couple big pops up in the yen happened here. But now we're almost back down to where that was before. I think actually the currency chart paints a better picture. Um, I'm on the hourly chart. That makes sense. Daily chart
Hmm.
will make more sense. Yeah, so this massive decline that happened right here, this is what caused this big gap down in the market. And people have been noticing, myself included, that we've just been grinding back up to where the Japanese government said, enough, right? We're not going to let you devalue our currency anymore. So this ends up just being an interesting play where if we look at the UUP, which is the dollar index, that's hitting new highs, right? Almost not new all-time highs, but definitely new multi-year highs. So if this is going to continue to occur, the Japanese government may step back in and then they may cause another slapdown in the market. So there's not really an individual name to be played there, but what it says to me, just looking at what happened last time in the S&P 500, it's kind of getting me a little bit nervous because that, I don't know if you, well, I'm sure you remember, Steve, that was a bit of a scary time, that gap down that happened in the SPY there, where they were saying
Yeah,
lock limit down for the day.
yeah, you don't hear that very often.
No.
Um, and I'm just going to say I'm going into this weekend pretty heavy in cash, not a lot of risk. I'm taking risk off for a few reasons. One of them Michael just went over, and it seems very overbought up here. But two, I'm quite amazed actually at the geopolitical volatility that's happening out there with Russia and sword and saber rattling and all that stuff. Going into a long weekend with geopolitical tensions like they are, I'm not in the mood to wake up Monday morning to a thief in the night. Just cutting the knees off of my entire portfolio.
Yeah.
So I'm long about three or four things, probably 65, 70% cash, and that's it.
No, and not even, and I didn't think about that, but you're right. There was some escalation with Russia recently. All that kind of stuff could be playing a part of it. But like we've been talking about, it's been a very good time to be a trader and investor over the last month or so. And what I wanted to kind of get by with that story and what we're seeing in the market and what me and Steve always talk about is it doesn't last forever. And I'm just seeing so much in the market, people getting so uppity about their cryptos doing so well and everything. And the longer you're in this game, the more you know that if people are getting so excited that they think they figured it out and they're geniuses, that's usually when the other shoe comes to drop at some point.
Yep.
Um, Last but not least, again, two things actually. So Gap stores, which is just Gap, uh, doing fantastically because they made a lot more money than people expected. But the reason I wanted to kind of look at this one in particular is what's happening here after this move, right? Generally speaking, you get a gap up and it says, they're picking up wealthier shoppings, more market shares, they're doing great, everything's fantastic. And then it gaps up and it immediately gets sold. I think this is kind of hammering home the same thing that me and Steve just talked about, where people are starting to take profits, right? If you bought Gap into earnings and they came out with all the things that you would want Gap to say, they're selling more things, they're getting wealthier clients, fantastic. And then they start to sell that on the open. To me, that's just another sign that, hey, it might be time to start ringing the register on some trades you got going. Just because reading this headline and seeing this just completely fade off the open is just another sign that we might be in for some profit taking across the market.
Yep, I agree.
So, last but not least, another earnings play. And, every time NVIDIA reports earnings, you have to talk about it because it's by far the largest market component that is out there, right? It's the biggest weighting in the S&P 500. It's the biggest weighting across a lot of things. First of all, I made this tweet, and I people always get triggered when I say it, but the option sellers won again. I heard estimates that it was going to gap up 5%, it was going to gap down 5%. This thing was going to be absolutely crazy. It didn't move at all. The actual gap up from the yesterday's close on earnings was near nothing. But just like we're seeing in Gap, people are taking this opportunity to sell. They blew all earnings out of the water. They guided up for next year from a news point of view. It's everything that you could want from Nvidia, but yet people are selling, right? And this is why we've done this show, is to kind of show us that it doesn't matter what the CEO says, it matters what the market participants say.
This is a really good content piece for what we're doing because I'm looking at the chart now, updated as of yesterday. It couldn't hold the gap up. It sold off. The buyers, conditioned buyers, jumped in, bought it. Now those conditioned buyers that jumped in and bought it down there at 141, they're about to be tested again. And that big reversal wick on the daily chart right after earnings, it's just, I mentioned to somebody else, the numbers are the numbers, but we always say it's how the market reacts.
Yeah.
And I think we have a case here where we're finally seeing a stock that's absorbing its baked in price. Everybody is so euphoric. The price is baked in that when they come out with just banger numbers, it still can't lift the price. And so you've got to pay attention to this type of situation.
Yeah. It's good closing thoughts that it doesn't matter the news, it matters the reaction to the news. If this exact same chart was happening and Nvidia had missed, or Nvidia had guided down, or they
Mm-hmm.
said anything pessimistic about the future of their business at all, then me and Steve would probably be sitting here saying, that's a pretty muted response because, they said bad name or bad things and it's down a little bit. But what me and Steve are saying is they said all the right things that every fundamental analysis would want to hear. We are making so much money. We're going to make so much money in the future. It's absolutely fantastic. But market participants are saying something else. They're saying either it's gotten too far, it's time to take profits, whatever it is, but it's being shown in price. So I'm looking at the same thing, Steve. I'm actually was going to look at NVDS, I think it is.
Yeah, the
It's one of
inverse.
those inverses. And the play that I'm watching going into the close today is just like you mentioned, that bottom of that wick from the earnings day. If we start to surpass this, Um, there's this is a 1.5. I think there's a 2. I think there's a, zero point 0.5, whatever it is. There's all kinds of inverse ETFs. But if we start to break through this wick right here, and it looks like we're going to close there, I think it's, for me anyway, it's a pretty basic trade. I'm going
Mm.
to take that trade. I'm going to
I,
put my stop probably at the low of that candle and fast forward a
I
few
like it.
weeks and see what
I
works.
think it's a I think it's a great risk reward setup there for sure. Based on everything we just talked about, and then you select the right vehicle which to trade it.
Yep.
You can get a low priced levered ETF and have at it.
And that's I love these ETFs. I made a comment on Trader TV this morning that I could see myself trading only ETFs in the future, just because there's just so many of them now that you can express just a wide array of everything. But that's my thinking, is just again a gap. All the best news in the world, market doesn't care. Market's selling the stock. Maybe it's time to take the inverse. So, all right,
That's why
Steve.
we call the charts footprints in the sand, so you can tell what the herd is really thinking, not what they're saying.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder than words.
So do you have any trade ideas for the folks before we wrap it up? Anything you're watching?
I really don't. I'll just continue. Like I said, I'm a little bit cautious going into this weekend. The market's been euphoric. It's been optimistic. It's shrugging off bad news in terms of geopolitical stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if this euphoria in XRP and crypto is going to last much through the weekend. We'll see. You know, I'm watching XRP here. It's trying to maybe challenge $1.50 again. But at some point, I expect this thing to definitely slow down. You can't go so far so fast. So just don't chase out there. I think I'm just going to leave people with that. Don't chase right
Nice.
now. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think those are great closing thoughts. That's kind of the whole synopsis of what we've been chatting about this entire time with this podcast, is that it's good to know the news. It's kind of fun to read the news and see what's going on in the market. But at the end of the day, you have to use technicals, use charts to kind of help guide your thinking, and don't FOMO. That's like the one thing I could tell new traders, is to make sure that you don't FOMO. So again, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you've made this far, make sure you give us a like and a retweet and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll see you guys soon.